Alors, je suis content que tout le monde soit venu et qu'on est tous en bonne santé.
Chers internautes, chers membres de la communauté de l'assurance, bonjour. Bonjour Sarah.
Bonjour Adrien. Nous sommes ravis de vous retrouver pour ce 3e ACA Insurance Days 2020, édition virtuelle, le monde d'après. Alors pour commencer, nous tenons à remercier tous nos membres et sponsors grâce auxquels nous avons pu organiser cette 8e édition des ACA Insurance Day, c'est-à-dire AIG, AXA, Baloise, Cali, Cardiff Luxvie, Foyer, Forward You, AG2R La Mondiale, la Luxe, Lombard International Assurance, Natixis Life, Sogé Life, Vitis Life,
Sans oublier Allianz, AME, CNP Luxembourg, Generali Employé Benefit, Iscox, Liberty Mutual Insurance, One Life, Swiss Life, Swiss Re, Tokyo Marine et Zurich.
et aussi Arendt et Medernach, KPMG, PwC, Allen et Overy, Clifford Chance, Elvinger Prussen, Milliman, Schiltz et Schiltz.
Quelle belle et grande communauté, nous avons beaucoup de chance.
Oui. Nous sommes, comme lundi et jeudi, où vous étiez plus de 600 à nous suivre, à Luxexpo, un endroit qui reprend les codes de la maison. Les 2 tiers d'entre vous sont derrière leur écran chez eux. Depuis mars dernier, le virtuel a investi l'espace domestique, le travail surtout a investi l'espace domestique. Et nous avons choisi ce lieu car il reflète la nouvelle réalité, le monde d'après. La distanciation sociale a révélé toute l'importance de l'humain et la crise a été un formidable accélérateur du digital parce que le digital est le dernier moyen de créer du lien.
Et pour créer du lien, utilisez la plateforme acainsuranceday.lu avec laquelle vous êtes déjà presque tous familiers. Vous avez le chat pour poser des questions, la helpline pour tous les problèmes techniques dans la bulle en bas à gauche de votre écran Contact Us. Alors allez-y, commentez, lâchez-vous, faites comme jeudi dernier, intervenez un maximum. Tout de suite, première interaction avec vous qui êtes chez vous derrière votre écran ou au travail derrière votre écran. Alors nous avons une question sur la droite de votre écran, une question Slido. Pendant le confinement, qu'avez-vous fait que vous n'auriez jamais pensé faire? Vous avez quelques secondes pour répondre. Format original et inédit pour ACA Insurance Day 2020, version 100% en digital, comme vous le savez. Vous êtes plus de 1000 à vous être inscrits et nous vous en remercions. Aujourd'hui, les discussions auront lieu en français et en anglais. Donc, pour votre confort, vous pouvez changer la langue en français ou en anglais, selon votre choix. Est-ce qu'en régie, on pourrait remontrer à nos internautes comment procéder? Alors, en cliquant sur le casque, vous avez le choix entre la langue du plateau, le français ou l'anglais. L'expert talk d'aujourd'hui sera en anglais. À vous de choisir. Enfin, dernière fonctionnalité de notre plateforme, le networking. En one-to-one, vous pouvez organiser des meetings. Vous étiez plus de 140 à le faire jeudi dernier. Alors allez-y, continuez à profiter de cette opportunité. Interagissez les uns avec les autres.
Et interagissez avec nous aussi, puisque nous vous répondons sur le chat, l'équipe de l'ACA vous répond, et nous, quand nous ne sommes pas en plateau. Alors, on va regarder les résultats de notre première question. Ça nous intéresse beaucoup de savoir ce que vous avez fait pendant le confinement que vous n'auriez jamais pensé faire. Toi, Adrien, tu as fait quoi pendant le confinement?
Comme un tiers de nos internautes, j'ai pu parler avec ma famille et j'ai découvert que c'était des gens vraiment sympas. J'adore mes enfants.
Ah, il y en a quand même 31 qui ont fait du pain. Hein.
J'ai aussi fait du pain. Toi aussi, non?
Oui, un peu. Adrien, les ACA Insurance Days, qu'est-ce que c'est?
Alors, ce sont 4 dates. Les 2 précédentes sont disponibles en replay sur notre plateforme. La prochaine, à ne manquer sous aucun prétexte, mardi 24 novembre. En tout, les ACA Insurance Day 2020, ce sont 38 experts et personnalités du monde de l'assurance qui se seront présentés sur notre plateau sous des formats originaux et tous différents.
Et à la fin des 2 heures, comme les 2 éditions précédentes, vous allez pouvoir participer à un des stands virtuels de nos sponsors KPMG, Arendt et PwC. Pour ça, on va vous montrer comment vous inscrire à l'une des sessions. Vous allez sur l'accueil et vous choisissez l'onglet stand et vous pouvez choisir le stand virtuel auquel vous souhaitez participer. De midi à 12h30, c'est la dernière session, donc profitez-en.
Encore un mot peut-être sur notre événement majeur, mardi prochain, le 24 novembre. La session académique, ce sera de 17h à 19h, avec la présence du ministre des Finances, Pierre Gaménia, du directeur du commissariat aux assurances, Claude Virion, du président de l'ACA, Marc Lauer, et un keynote speaker de renommée internationale, Fons Trompenaars. Connectez-vous sur notre plateforme ACA Insurance Day comme vous en avez l'habitude et découvrez un nouveau décor et bien d'autres surprises.
Oui, beaucoup d'autres surprises. Un rendez-vous à ne pas manquer. Alors, pour aujourd'hui, nous allons commencer par 2 advisor pitch. Le premier sur l'intérêt de proposer une souscription dématérialisée et le deuxième sur la signature électronique et les obligations réglementaires. Pour le Market News d'aujourd'hui, nous allons voyager en Italie, qui est le deuxième marché de distribution de l'assurance vie luxembourgeoise, avec l'année dernière une collecte de plus de 6 milliards d'euros. Et pour notre expert talk, Adrien, de quoi va-t-on parler?
Quels sont les enseignements de la crise, les opportunités, le bon et le moins bon? Comment nos dirigeants à Luxembourg se projettent pour définir le monde de demain? On veut tout savoir.
Nous aurons la troisième session des ACA Insurance Innovation Awards. Cette fois, c'est Triolab et Stampify qui affrontent notre jury, composé de Arendt et Medernach, KPMG et PwC. Et vous, surtout.
Enfin, en dernière partie, Marc Lauer, président de l'ACA et CEO du groupe Foyer, va répondre pendant 15 minutes à toutes vos questions. Pour les lui adresser, utilisez le cadre spécial dans Slido qui sera à votre disposition sur la droite de votre écran à plusieurs moments au cours de notre émission.
Pour notre premier advisor pitch, il a rejoint Lombard International Assurance il y a 4 ans. Vous connaissez sans doute son visage parce qu'il est familier des plateaux télévisés et notamment de BFM TV. Il est Head of Distribution and Sales Innovation et Head of French Market. Il s'agit de David Liebman.
Si le digital semble une réponse évidente pour maintenir le contact et continuer d'échanger à distance, la vraie question qui se pose aujourd'hui est de savoir comment notre industrie doit s'en servir afin de rester pertinente. David, tu as 5 minutes pour répondre à cette question.
« 2020 marquera l'histoire sous bien des aspects, et notamment par la rupture sans précédent dans notre manière de travailler pour l'ensemble de notre industrie et évidemment chez les assureurs luxembourgeois. Traditionnellement, notre métier repose sur la proximité et notre capacité de traiter de sujets privés tels que la planification successorale, la protection ou la transmission des patrimoines. Et alors que le contact humain est à la base de toute relation de confiance entre clients et conseillers, les nouvelles règles sanitaires posent désormais la question de savoir comment rester pertinent dans le monde de demain. Récemment, les outils de télétravail qui nous ont permis d'assurer la continuité du service ou les visioconférences ont illustré à quel point la digitalisation pouvait être un facilitateur. Et si le digital semble être la réponse évidente et désormais incontournable dans ce monde, comment notre industrie doit-elle s'adapter ? La digitalisation représente un accélérateur pour les compagnies luxembourgeoises. Mais nous ne sommes pas des startups. Et la transformation digitale doit s'intégrer au sein de modèles et d'architectures opérationnelles existants et s'adapter à notre culture du service. Depuis plusieurs années déjà, l'intégration de la technologie au sein d'opérations telles que l'analyse automatisée des profils de risque ou la vérification instantanée des antécédents liés aux opérations de contrôle anti-blanchiment contribue à l'excellence opérationnelle et renforce notre efficacité. Du point de vue commercial, l'existence d'une plateforme de souscription digitalisée ou la mise à disposition d'outils transactionnels en ligne sont des leviers de croissance importants pour les assureurs luxembourgeois et répondent aux attentes de nos partenaires. Pour l'ensemble des parties prenantes au contrat, la digitalisation offre globalement une meilleure expérience utilisateur, avec notamment une information instantanée, sécurisée et accessible 24 heures sur 24. Pour nos partenaires, l'avantage d'outils de collaboration innovants vient renforcer leur mission de conseil et de service. Par exemple, le suivi du parcours de la souscription ou l'accès à des reportings consolidés viennent renforcer leur mission de distributeur en adéquation avec leurs contraintes réglementaires. Le contrat d'assurance vie luxembourgeois est une véritable plateforme d'investissement et nécessite une vision à 360 degrés actualisée des expositions au marché financier. L'accès à une information en direct et des outils transactionnels au travers d'un service digitalisé leur permettent de renforcer également leur rôle d'allocataire dans les unités de compte au sein du contrat. Pour les compagnies d'assurance vie, la souscription dématérialisée offre de véritables gains d'efficacité opérationnelle et une meilleure gestion des flux et des volumes. La signature électronique et la transmission d'informations sécurisées directement dans les systèmes d'administration des polices d'assurance permet de réduire le risque et de renforcer la qualité du service. En définitive, la digitalisation doit nous permettre de gérer plus et mieux et de libérer du temps aux interlocuteurs afin de se focaliser sur la gestion de la relation, que ce soit avec nos partenaires ou avec les clients. Alors, s'agit-il pour autant de la solution miracle? Le contrat d'assurance vie luxembourgeois est une solution sur mesure et la digitalisation permet de répondre de façon efficace à la personnalisation très développée de nos offres. La standardisation de tout ou partie des process est un véritable atout en termes d'économie d'échelle pour les assureurs luxembourgeois. Cependant, seule la digitalisation ne suffit pas. Le différenciateur majeur de notre industrie est l'expertise humaine. Le conseil est au cœur de notre proposition de valeur. Que ce soit la structuration patrimoniale, le savoir-faire cross-border, notre connaissance légale par marché ou encore l'ingénierie financière, ce sont tous ces différenciateurs qui font la force des assureurs luxembourgeois. Avec une évolution croissante des besoins de nos partenaires et de nos clients, et dans un environnement de plus en plus complexe, c'est bien l'alliance d'un parcours digitalisé et de l'expertise humaine qui permet de répondre aux besoins les plus exigeants et les plus sophistiqués pour rester pertinent dans le monde de demain.
Après un passage par un cabinet d'avocats, elle a choisi de revenir à ses premiers amours et nous en sommes ravis car cela nous donne l'occasion de l'écouter aujourd'hui. Elle est directrice juridique et de l'ingénierie patrimoniale chez Natixis Life. Il s'agit de Eva Giori-Tourcel.
Eva partage avec nous aujourd'hui sa vision de la signature électronique. Un acte juridique, point de départ d'une révolution digitale. On regarde tout de suite Eva Giori-Tourcel.
Alors, certains d'entre nous ont pu penser que le digital était un phénomène de mode, un nouveau pan de l'économie à développer. Mais l'histoire nous a rattrapés parce que dans nos métiers d'assurance vie à l'international, nous savons aujourd'hui qu'il peut être très difficile de mettre en place des rencontres physiques avec les clients ou les partenaires commerciaux, que les marchés financiers peuvent être tendus, qu'il est donc très important de revoir les stratégies d'investissement des contrats de nos clients. Par ailleurs, la période est anxiogène, on pense à sa santé, donc à revoir ses clauses bénéficiaires. Et enfin, vous savez que les moyens de communication, et notamment les services postaux, peuvent parfois tourner au ralenti, voire être complètement stoppés. Autant d'éléments qui permettent de recentrer le digital à sa juste place. Alors vous me demanderez peut-être s'il y a des particularités à mettre en place un outil de souscription et de gestion des opérations de contrats d'assurance et de capitalisation des parts de Luxembourg. Cette question, d'après moi, appelle deux volets de réponse distincts. Le premier, sans surprise, c'est le renvoi à un instrument complètement éprouvé en droit européen, qui est celui de la signature électronique. Et là, les opérateurs seront bienvenus d'opter pour une certification, une norme qui va les rapprocher au maximum de la valeur juridique d'une signature manuscrite. L'autre volet de la réponse concerne là vraiment le métier, parce que vous savez qu'en assurance vie, il existe des règles protectrices qui exigent finalement l'application à nos contrats de la loi du pays de résidence de chacun de nos clients. Et ces lois ont des particularités propres au numérique qu'il s'agira alors d'analyser et de mettre en place tout au long du projet. On nous demande souvent en pratique si l'assureur se trouve alors dans un processus de vente à distance. La question est tout à fait opportune parce que vous savez que la vente à distance bénéficie d'un cadre normatif très particulier en Europe. Tout va dépendre au final de la façon dont l'assureur est organisé. Dès lors que l'assureur ne distribue pas lui-même de bout en bout, mais qu'il laisse la main à un courtier en assurance pour toute la partie offre et proposition au client, ce qu'on va observer, c'est finalement une bascule du client en milieu de parcours. Il va finalement rejoindre l'outil numérique de l'assureur. En pareil cas, vraisemblablement, l'assureur ne sera pas dans une systématique de vente à distance. Mais vous l'aurez compris, le plus gros des travaux est finalement axé sur la mise en place effective des contrats clients, que ce soit de l'assurance vie ou de la capitalisation, et éventuellement éventuellement de l'adaptation des conventions de distribution avec les courtiers. Alors, je vous engage pour plus de détails à prendre connaissance d'un article que j'ai eu le plaisir de publier dans l'AGFI Luxembourg au mois de juillet cette année. Le plus gros centre d'intérêt, c'est vraiment d'observer et de mettre en place la notion de consentement éclairé du client. Cela revêt différents aspects. Le premier, évidemment, c'est de bien cibler la clientèle visée par un tel outil. Est-ce qu'on veut, par exemple, intégrer les souscripteurs mineurs, les souscripteurs sous curatelle, et si oui, à quelles conditions? Un autre volet est simplement par référence à l'instrumental, c'est-à-dire aux écrans. Est-ce que les écrans observent un déroulé continu? Est-ce que les temps de téléchargement de l'outil sont suffisants pour que le souscripteur prennent vraiment connaissance du contenu de son contrat. Enfin, un élément fondamental, évidemment, c'est d'empêcher qu'une personne non autorisée ne puisse se saisir finalement de l'outil et effectuer toutes les manipulations en lieu et place du client. Côté distributeur, il aura, comme toujours, la lourde tâche de bien identifier le client, parce qu'il faudra absolument s'assurer que l'auteur de cette signature correspond bien au support durable qui sera mis en place, qui par ailleurs doit faire l'objet de toutes les techniques d'archivage et d'horodatage électronique pour faire face à d'éventuels questionnements. Vous l'aurez compris, cela comporte donc certains travaux et quelques arbitrages juridiques, mais c'est une solution qui permet une excellente maîtrise de la relation client, une très bonne gestion des systèmes internes de la data et également des flux financiers et notamment d'investissement dont vous savez qu'ils sont absolument prépondérants dans nos métiers d'assurance vie patrimoniale.
Merci Eva. Avant de continuer, n'oubliez pas de poster sans attendre dans Slido vos questions pour Marc Lauer. Est-ce qu'on pourrait remontrer à nos internautes comment procéder? Donc sur la droite de votre écran, vous avez Slido et vous allez avoir un encart avec la photo de Marc Lauer dans lequel vous allez pouvoir adresser toutes vos questions. Et Marc Lauer, à l'issue de l'émission, en dernier format, vous répondra.
Et sans attendre, notre prochain invité, après 15 années d'expérience dans le secteur de l'assurance, il est aujourd'hui responsable du développement commercial du marché italien pour Sogelife. Il va nous parler de Dolce Vita. C'est Matteo Ronchetti.
Matteo va vous expliquer sur le régime forfaitaire dit du nouveau résident italien. Matteo, nous t'écoutons avec attention.
Aujourd'hui en Europe, nous comptons plusieurs régimes d'impôts forfaitaires qui visent à attirer des personnes fortunées dans le pays, comme les célèbres UK Resident Non-Domiciled ou les Portugais Non-Habitual Resident. À compter de l'année 2017, dans l'objectif de relancer son économie, l'Italie s'est également dotée d'un régime d'impôt forfaitaire, dit du nouveau résident. Celui-ci s'accompagne à deux autres mesures fiscales. Les rapatriements des cerveaux, destinés aux travailleurs ou chercheurs qui souhaitent transférer leur résidence dans le but de conduire une activité en Italie, ou le régime de la Dolce Vita, destiné aux retraités qui souhaitent transférer leur résidence dans le sud du pays. Au 31 12 2019, l'Italie comptait 421 personnes fortunées qui avaient transféré leur résidence en Italie sous le nouveau régime du nouveau résident. Pour bien comprendre les avantages que les régimes peuvent proposer à une personne physique qui souhaite transférer sa résidence en Italie, nous allons les comparer avec les régimes d'imposition ordinaires. Celui-ci prévoit un impôt sur les revenus italiens et étrangers, l'IRPEF, qui peut aller jusqu'à 43%. Un impôt de 0,20% sur la valeur des actifs détenus à l'étranger, l'IVAFE, et un impôt de 0,76% sur la valeur des biens immobiliers détenus à l'étranger, l'IVIE. Le régime forfaitaire permet aux nouveaux résidents de bénéficier, en substitution des impôts sous-mentionnés, d'une taxation plafonnée à 100 000 € par an sur ces revenus étrangers. Plus précisément, le nouveau résident pourra bénéficier d'une exonération de toute obligation déclarative sur ses actifs et investissements détenus à l'étranger, d'une exonération de l'IVAFE et de l'IVIE et d'une exonération de l'impôt de succession sur les biens situés en dehors du territoire italien. Reste assujetti à la taxation ordinaire tout revenu des sources italiennes, Et les plus-values provenant des cessions, des participations dites qualifiées, même si réalisées à l'étranger, en dehors les 5 premières années du régime forfaitaire. En juin 2020, l'administration fiscale italienne a publié un ruling avec l'objectif de clarifier certains aspects du régime en lien avec les contrats d'assurance vie détenus par avec des compagnies étrangères. Plus précisément, l'administration confirme la non-application de l'impôt sur les plus-values en cas de rachat, la non-application de l'IVA et pour les compagnies en LPS dites sostituto, la possibilité d'exclure les contrats d'assurance du calcul de l'impôt sur la réserve mathématique, l'IRM. Par contre, l'administration confirme l'application du droit des timbres de 0,20, le bollo virtuale, marquant dans ce cas un désalignement entre bollo virtuale et IVA. Comment les contrats d'assurance vie peuvent être utiles dans un contexte de mobilité internationale ayant l'Italie comme pays de destination? Imaginons le cas d'un résident français déjà titulaire d'un contrat d'assurance vie luxembourgeois qui souhaite transférer sa résidence en Italie avec des bénéficiaires qui restent en France. Les contrats, grâce à la flexibilité, la portabilité et adaptabilité typiques des produits luxembourgeois, pourra continuer d'exister aussi après les transferts en Italie. Le contrat ne subira aucune imposition pendant la durée du régime et il sera bien exonéré de l'impôt de succession en Italie. Pour les bénéficiaires en France, l'Italie n'appliquera aucune imposition sur les plus-values du contrat. Cet exemple montre bien comment le contrat d'assurance vie est un outil incontournable dans un contexte de mobilité internationale. Donc, le besoin d'être accompagné par des professionnels compétents, comme le Luxembourg, peut les proposer.
Merci Mathéo. Et maintenant, l'Expert Talk, session phare de notre 3e journée avec 3 CEO qui représentent l'ensemble du secteur. L'assurance vie et non-vie, la réassurance, ainsi qu'une fintech luxembourgeoise qui interviendra à distance. Et ce sera Sylvia Pucard, partenaire chez PwC, qui va relever le défi et modérer notre panel. Sans te mettre la pression, Sylvia, nous avons un record d'inscrits aujourd'hui puisque nous sommes plus de 800 à être inscrits aux ACA Insurance Day pour cette journée.
Alors, Adrien, de quoi vont-ils nous parler?
Alors, nos invités vont définir ce qu'on appelle aujourd'hui le New Normal, comment naviguer dans ce nouvel environnement digital tout en conservant le lien social si important qui nous unit. Vous l'avez compris, dans ce panel, il sera question de digital, d'entreprises d'assurance et réassurance luxembourgeoise, un sujet engageant sous une dimension locale.
Alors,
Sarah, Adrien, many thanks for your introduction and for setting the challenge. Welcome to all of you, so hopefully more than 1,000 people connecting with us now. I am really pleased to be with you today as we enter the last Expert Talk session of the 2020 ACA Insurance Days. And yes, that's already the last webinar. With the arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic, the insurance companies found themselves in the middle of a storm. In a matter of hours and days, really not weeks, they had to take their entire operation remote. And at the same time, they were fielding calls about changing coverage, engaging with clients about business interruption policies, still answering and paying claims about life, health, disability insurance, and way more. But we know that insurance companies are designed for this. We can say this major crisis has put all stakeholders on the same path, an unprecedented one. The risk of the business continuity, which was overall assessed as remote, all of a sudden became real. So far, insurance companies have weathered quite well the crisis, especially when compared to other sectors, largely due to investment they'd already made in a number of areas, whether it's about networks, applications, laptops. Though the crisis did expose a number of gaps and vulnerabilities and reinforced the need for additional technology investments. The big question now facing carriers is this one. How do we adapt our business strategies to accommodate the new normal? When we discuss with the industry, they look at the future looking at three themes. The need to accelerate the digital transformation, adapting to changing customer needs, and the new employee. Who's that new employee working in that digital environment? Before moving to the introduction of my panelists, I would like to ask you a question. And your perspective on where are your priorities as an industry, as a sector, for the upcoming 12 months when it comes to technology, and more specifically, the core technology transformation, intelligent automation. So I know you all master now the Slido concept and the pooling, being the third time with us. So you'll see that the question rising, and I'd like to get your perspective and picking around customer experience, core technology transformation, blockchain, artificial intelligence, marketing automation, cybersecurity, customer experience. So it's up to you to vote, and we will look at the results shortly. We will explore with my guests their perspective and experience on how they've dealt with the crisis and are still dealing with it, and especially if they have experienced the digital boom everyone is talking about. On stage here at Lux Expo The Box with me, I have the pleasure to introduce you to my panelists. On my right, Myriam. Myriam, you are the CEO of AXA Luxembourg. You've joined from Switzerland over the summer, our country. I'm really pleased to have you with us today, and I'm looking forward to hear your perspective.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
On my left, Ivo. Ivo, you are the general manager of several Swiss Re Group entities here in Luxembourg. As you know, Swiss Re is a leading reinsurer worldwide and focusing also on the more specific, to the B2B market. So also looking forward to hear from you, Ivo.
Good morning. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. And remotely, as Adrien introduced it, we have Jonathan. Jonathan, so you are with us connected, so digitally fully enabled. You are one of the co-founders of Finology. Finology is a regtech, fintech, who's focusing on developing digital ecosystem for the financial industry. So we really look forward to hearing from you on trends and your perspective.
Good morning, and I'm very sad and sorry not to be on stage with you, and hope to have a great session anyways.
Thank you, Jonathan. So maybe we can have now a quick look at our Slido and the results and see what you've told us about your perspective on where you intend to invest in the upcoming 12 months. Well, I think that here it's a massive vote for the customer experience. There's a lot also about intelligent automation. AI is also coming up into the list. I like that one. I think I don't see blockchain, but that's okay. I'd like then to turn to my invitees. I mean, when you look at the results, how would you assess that? Is it consistent with your own experience? Myriam, maybe. Would you like to start?
Well, I'm absolutely delighted to see that customer experience is the number one, because I think actually with the crisis, we have noted a huge acceleration in expectations from customers to interact differently, to interact digitally with the insurance sector. And this sector has been claimed to be the paper sector, the legacy sector, the slow-moving sector. And I'm pleased to see that with this top priority, we're actually accelerating something that was supposed to come, that was supposed to accelerate, and that now is a burning platform, and we need to move now as an industry.
So thank you. So I think the themes you've picked up are interesting one, and we propose you to deep dive into those. So we'll be looking definitely at the customer experience, definitely also at operational efficiency. I think it's coming into the intelligent automation. And last but not least, I think we're going to spend also some time on our people. I think that as an insurance community, we are a business people for the benefit of the people, and we'll also be talking about that and how can technology can support those strategic pillars. So as we deep dive, firstly, on the customer experience, I'd like to turn it to you, Jonathan, and just check with you, what do you observe? What are the main trends that you see from where you're sitting as a fintech supporting the industry?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I must say I'm pretty happy to see that on the survey it's very down to earth, and I agree with Miriam. It's probably the biggest challenge of the incumbent players, and I think it relates also to the customer experience and the general trend here. There's clearly a shift of control that is expected. You have people, customers, who are more informed, more educated when it comes to digital, but in general terms also to insurance and banking. They are willing to understand and to basically make their own decisions. So if you give them the tools, they will be able to indeed choose, select, opt for what is probably better for them. And I think that if you look also at what has happened recently in the banking industry, but has probably started a few years before the insurance company, is lagging a bit behind, but well, picking up this topic of customer experience and digitalization. I think it's interesting to quote one of the futurist and author, famous author here, which is Brett King. And he's the CEO of Moven, which is one of the first neobanks. And he was stating that banking is no longer somewhere you go, it's something you do. And I think that it applies in the insurance business too. And indeed, if you look at what is happening nowadays with the COVID, and I think I'm here the example today of the impact of digital and being able to interact with the other panelists, and we've prepared that, and it was wonderful to see them. But still, I can be here today with you. I'm not actually in London, even though the poster behind it is showing London Bridge, but I'm in Luxembourg and I can interact, and it's indeed something that we have to take into account nowadays. The impact of digital is huge. This wave is here and it won't disappear.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan, for sharing on that. I'd like to turn it now to you also, Miriam. How have you felt that? How are AXA has been dealing with that customer experience, customer journey?
Yeah, well, the beauty of a crisis, you feel it immediately. It hit us. So we went through phases. In the first phase, we had an increase in questions. We had an increase in email. Email was the preferred channel. So that actually had a huge increment. And the questions was rather the frequency of questions, but also the type of questions. We sense with our customers there's a level of uncertainty. There are questions about what is being covered, am I being covered in the event of? And I think the most amazing and most impressive is the health insurance, because I do believe that the question of health, and I'm not talking only about virus, but a high awareness of staying healthy, and long-term health is really taking a lot of time for us, because there are many questions of our customers. In the end, the bottom line for me is that the amazing conclusion so far is that for many interactions, customers prefer digital, but for certain interactions, they actually still want to talk to someone. They want the human touch, and that is why we talk very simply of a phygital customer experience, a hybrid customer experience, where the magic is about combining digital with the physical interaction.
That's really interesting. Phygital.
Yes.
We'll get that one and certainly go back on that. Ivo, I'd like to turn it to you also, more into a B2B model. What have you observed? Any digital acceleration?
Yeah, absolutely. You may believe that as a reinsurer, you are further away from the original insurer because there is the insurer in between. And probably the weight of the digital is slightly different in B2B business. So the personal contacts matter in terms of negotiation and treaty discussions. Now, on the digitalization, we try to help our clients. And clients in that respect are the insurers. And just to give you two examples, on the P&C side, where we invest more time is where we have high frequency interaction with clients. So that means facultative business coming in daily, if you want, where we offer automated underwriting solutions, which essentially are very low touch then and integrated from the systems perspective. And we have seen 30% growth the last 6 months on that those tools across all geographies. But it has been an accelerator. The crisis has been an accelerator of this investment also from the client side. And the second topic where the clients struggle at the moment because the original insured has a problem is in the crisis in medical life insurance when it comes to the assessment of the risk. And you want to have data about the insured or potentially insured. Usually in the past you would ask them to go to a doctor to do a blood test and some analysis, and then the paper would be brought to the agent, to the insured, and faxed to the reinsurer, and the assessment goes back. You can imagine that in the COVID crisis that's not possible anymore, so the trend is heavily towards automated underwriting systems first, which is the let's say, seamless interaction between the insurer and the reinsurer. But the second phase is, do we have alternatives to this physical first step of the potential insured? And that goes very much into predictive underwriting, using data, lifestyle factors, in some countries even drug prescription data to assess the risk, low touch, and very efficient.
That's amazing as a change and fast changing, I understand
Absolutely.
that. I'd like to turn it to you now, dear audience, and also get your perspective on that customer journey. Where have you invested and where do you plan to invest? So I'd like to ask you again to go to your Slido that you all master on the poll, and if you can define in one word, just one, where you see those investment and critical aspects when it comes to the customer journey. So as we're getting the cloud of words that is going to be formed, maybe we can just deep dive slightly more, Miriam. Concretely, what was the main biggest change you had into getting to the customer?
So for most companies, the main biggest change was to enable your agents and your employees to stay in touch. And there were simple situations where you were worrying, where do I get more screens? Do I have laptops? Do I need to stand in queue in front of MediaMarkt? And these challenges, luckily enough for us, weren't the case. At AXA in Luxembourg, on the 13th of March, we decided to go to telework, and on the 16th of March, which is a Monday, we were in telework. So it is not so much about enabling us to stay in touch with the customer, but I truly believe it's rather about being able to absorb all the questions, uncertainties, and also the new expectations of the customers.
And I think we're now saying exactly linked to that, what our audience is telling us, a lot, of course, we're going to digitalize. That experience needs to be seamless, needs to be transparent, needs to increase the level of the service. IT definitely is going to support. Would you like to add anything else, Ivo, from what you see there in that cloud of different words?
I think it's a logical picture of what you would have expected. I'm not surprised with what I see. The seamless comes up more and more, probably a reflection of what we were just talking about. Yeah. But I think that's the future. Jonathan mentioned it, that people would expect not to go to the bank, but to do banking all the time. I think we need to work on that because it's too cumbersome still.
when we look at that, I think it's a kind of a natural move also to talk about the operational efficiency. And when we're talking that, because I see there are a couple of words, I'd like again to turn it to you, Miriam. You know, when we talk operational efficiency, is there a digital aspect of that, and how can that support that strategic pillar?
It's a very good point. Usually, if you work for a large company like Ivo and myself, you have large plans. You have lots of PowerPoints to plan the future. So what we did in the middle of COVID, we sat down as the executive team and you asked, in terms of operational efficiencies, do we need to change the plan because of the crisis? Do we need to be more simple, faster? And we actually changed the plan. And that's part of the crisis. We took the decision to delay some of the large projects to go for small projects. Rapid simplification. I'm talking about RPA, robotics. I'm talking about OCR. I'm talking about online subscription, getting that in place fast. And simplification for me is the whole matter of prioritizing rapid improvements in the whole end-to-end journey and being able to operationally be simpler and faster in the interaction with the customer.
Yeah, that's really, and do you see that really changing fastly? I mean, do you revise that very quickly also to further adapt to what's emerging?
It's at the stage where I would say maybe too quickly. So we did 10 sprints every 2 weeks. We wrote our vision, how would AXA look like in 2024 after the crisis, supposedly. And with that, we had our North Star, but what is in between is changing every quarter. Of course, we need to review our plans. And the speed is, I think for the whole team, is a challenge. Yeah.
That is. Jonathan, as you're listening to us, you know, sitting on that advisory side, what would you see, you know, on those operational efficiency topics being critical?
Yeah, well, I fully agree with the idea of having to accelerate in this adaptation to a fast-moving world, and I think that indeed the COVID-19 crisis was a catalyst for this. But I think also that we have to make the difference between digitization, which is basically the conversion of data and processes, existing analog data processes to digital, and the difference with the digitalization, which is probably more impactful. It's the use of digital technology and data to actually improve business, to replace or transform existing business processes. So in that sense, I believe that it is clearly something that you have to look at as something not just optimizing the existing, but potentially also part of it reinventing a bit the way you work, the way you interact with your customers, being individuals or legal persons. It's applies for B2C and B2B. It's not one side folded. It's clearly, we focused probably a bit too much on the B2C part, but the digitalization is clearly something that has to be seen as impactful for all kind of businesses. And if I bring it down to very down-to-earth examples, we implemented with some of the ACA members over the past of the COVID crisis, but and probably a bit before that, the e-signature, for instance, in the context of IDD. And there, the result was quite impressive. From a paper-based process where they had a 33% conversion, implementing the e-signature took it to a level of 92% conversion rate. It's huge. It's massive. The impact is big. And if you look at also not only as the perspective of the user, of the end user, and it's the link once more with the customer experience, which is the key element here in all businesses. If you look at also making optimizing existing internal processes, we implemented with another member of the ACA on the update, customer data update and documentation update. And there it improves the quality of the data and the document and makes the organization much more efficient on the back office part. So I think that indeed efficiency is the key element, not only for the organization within its own structure and way of working, but also efficiency for the customers, the end customers. It has to be efficient. So here we can't just talk about, e-signatures, onboarding. It has to be thought as a digital product, a digital experience.
That's insightful. Thanks a lot, Jonathan, for sharing with us. Ivo, when we look at what has been, the impact you've seen, here we're talking about reinventing. Have you seen some of that happening in terms of the processes, the way they could have been adapted further to those changing circumstances?
Yes, I have seen that, but I think it's not a revolution. It's, as I think Miriam at the start said it, it's an acceleration of existing ideas. I think the crisis has made it far more acceptable to both the employees, but also to management. And then it's about incremental changes. In other areas, you go for the big bang. So, for example, we decided to completely go with a big project and centralize our finance systems across the globe, across all business units, which is a project for the next 5 years. But it's also about having this seamless integration across the landscape and across the various hierarchical levels of the legal entities. So that's a big project. And the aim is similar to what Jonathan just described. Yeah.
So thanks for sharing on that. Maybe I'd like, let's say then, to remind you, dear public, that if you'd like to ask any question to my panelists, we're happy to take any of them. So as it was suggested, do not hesitate to go into the chat and to post any of the questions you may have. I'm sure you have some burning questions there. Okay. I think there is a last pillar that, as we explore and move around the different strategic pillars, are interesting to deep dive, and you touch on that. It's also about the people component of what we do. And that people component is more and more critical to what we do. You could get the best strategy, I guess, but if you don't get the right people to be with you on that journey, clearly you're missing something. Before moving into asking the question to my panelists, I'd like again to ask you, dear public, if you can go again to your Slido and share with us your perspective on that one. And when it comes to the strategy, if you go again on Slido, on the right, and look at some of the FDs we've gathered together about the people and organization and where you see your strategy in the coming months and year. Is it about implementing everyday flexibility in the working style, the reappraisal of the workforce skill mix and sources, mobilization of digital upskilling, higher focus on mental health and employee protection? All of that, could be. So we really look forward to get your insights, and we'll use that also to debate among our panel. Ivo, I'd like to turn it to you. I think you just touched on it. I mean, the people element of that. Digital management, are we getting there? I mean, is it like the must, or what do you observe?
So, first of all, I don't like the word digital management. I would call it management at distance, maybe, or virtual management, maybe better. We need to change. Yeah? So, I think it's an illusion to believe that after the crisis and with the vaccines, we will go back to exactly the same mode we were on 12th of March 2020. That will not happen. The expectations have changed. Expectations of our clients, the insureds, but also the employees. My employees certainly would expect us to have a more flexible working scheme, be it working hours, being present in the office. Definitely what will change for a larger organization like mine is the whole travel discussion. So we had a discussion beginning of the year that we should reduce CO2 emissions by 30% in 2 years. What a big question mark how you could achieve this. I think we are down 80% now, and the company still stands. So there are ways to manage at distance which will continue to exist. So I believe there are also limits. We did a survey in October with our employees, and I think almost nobody said, I want to work 100% from home, and that's now the way to go forever. I think we will need to find a mix and a good composition between the flexibility, no commute, typical topic in Luxembourg with the traffic jams in the morning, if we can save some time and stress there. Certainly a topic, although we have a fiscal regime in the neighboring countries, which is probably the most important impediment to installing a more flexible working regime. I believe we need to give the tools to the employees, collaboration tools. So when we talk about investments, as we were talking there, when I talk to my IT guys, I think we have invested a lot in collaboration tools. MS Teams was not in our workplace on 12th of March, and instead of a 6-month rollout, it was a 3 weeks rollout across the globe. No training, just intuitive learning, and it worked. I think people get agile and are more agile and adaptable than we sometimes assume ourselves. But it also means we need to have different management styles. I think this whole working at distance demands for more attention from the line manager, not just dispatching and controlling tasks, but there's a lot about empathy, about listening, about talking with people, probably also sharing personal experience. And we will have investment in managers, in our own trainings, in the awareness, but also in just learning to understand what it means managing a team at distance over time.
We see that question indeed of the leadership and how do you lead teams in those virtual mode as really being present. And resonating exactly with your comment, I think if we look at the slide of results, the everyday flexibility in the working style is clearly coming as an overwhelming choice from our audience. I think we see there also digital upskilling programs, but clearly that's coming after. Enabling leaders to manage remotely, not yet assessed as being the most present topic, but clearly one we see as emerging. Miriam, I'd like to turn it to you. When you look at those results and how you've dealt with that when it comes to your people, what's the most important that you've learned over the last months?
Well, there was a big surprise, and this was globally across AXA. We never had such a high level of solidarity and employee engagement before. It was amazing to see that we stick together in a crisis. And that was an emotional moment for the management team, for us all, to see that the NPS is rather positive. The key question I have, what are CEOs doing to keep it at that level? It's such a painful experience that a crisis makes us stick together. What has happened in our workplace that we don't feel attached to work anymore, that we feel like we are in structures that are not giving enough autonomy? And autonomy, for me, as the conclusion is the key word, we are verging into a future where employees would like to decide more about how they work, when they work, why they work, purpose. And we're verging into a future of millennials, of a young generation that needs more autonomy in the way they want to run their professional and private lives. And now is the moment to use the crisis and to get it very, very concretely to the point. I don't think we should discuss telework, home office. We should go beyond that and really discuss what is the type of work environment which gives most autonomy to our employees to really feel satisfied, connected to their daily work.
Do you get any specific, I would say, support, let's say, from those elements of digital transformation to go to that empowerment, and how you...
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we are the type of people like me, baby boomers, we are sometimes still stuck in the mindset of the past. So the key question I asked 200 leaders at AXA, how are you going to monitor productivity when your employees are at home? And you wouldn't believe it. 50% of the answers were on how long are you logged in?
No.
How many emails are you writing? How many meetings are in your Outlook calendar? And 50% were on why would you measure? If you actually know why you're working, if you have a clear orientation, and if you have purpose at work, shouldn't we go away from that controlling environment? And I question myself if I should not start as a baby boomer thinking radically about the second answer. What is the autonomy? What is the purpose I'm giving to people? And the key question I asked myself in the crisis was, what am I doing to make the office the most exciting place to go back to? And what is the reason to go back to the office one day? What reason can I give as a CEO?
Thanks, Miriam, for sharing. I'd like to turn it now to Jonathan. I mean, Jonathan, you're a startup mindset. I mean, is any of that like a revolution for you, or is it just like business as normal? Would you go fully digital? I mean, no more workspace, maybe, Jonathan, for phenology.
I believe our landlord wouldn't be happy about that one. But the way we're already working is indeed based on remote working too. So we had that in place. The way our IT environment is organized allows us to indeed have the developers, the IT people working remotely. And Ivo raised that point. It's mainly a tax issue then that it could be become more and more of a concern. But so the way we have organized our work is indeed based on the option given to our employees to work from home. It's also the structure that we're offering in terms of the tools. They were all equipped with a laptop. They were all equipped with the software, the tokens, the IT and security environment that would enable us to provide the service to our clients. We are a startup indeed, but we're a startup of 35 people. So it's not a small startup, and we're a startup that actually has clients, insurance companies, banks, and their expectations in terms of compliance is very high too. So, and IT security. So we have to meet these requirements. And so for that, I believe that the key element is indeed offering the environment, the technical environment, but we're also provider to our clients. So there, for both these aspects of interacting with our clients and internal interaction, we have to develop new products. So the R&D part is key too. And there, human interaction is a key element. So the creativity, everything comes from the interaction, where we're still, humans are still animals. So we need interaction. And for that, if we go for 100% remote organization, I think we'll be struggling. So I'm personally not a big fan of 100% remote working. Even though we are organized and we could, in terms of the tools that we provide, in terms of management, in terms of organization, we could go that way, follow that path. But in fact, it's mostly our employees who have asked us to come to the office, because it's so much more efficient that way. You can, instead of sending, I don't know, 10 emails going on your internal messaging tool and trying to get everyone on board, in just 5 minutes, you can solve most of the issues, most of the problems whereas it would take you probably half an hour to circulate an email internally and try and find the right answer. So I think that, and Miriam said it, you have to have a mix between digital and physical interactions. Otherwise, it won't be efficient.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. I think we go back to our phygital concept that even when it comes to the employee experience and employee journey and how they support the strategy, you need to get that hybrid mode and clearly work on it. Adrien, I'd like to turn it to you as you are looking for me at the different questions we may get from our audience. Any burning question you see on the platform?
Thank you, Sylvia. Yes, we got a few questions from the chat. So maybe first one will be, so taking into consideration the evolution of the sanitary crisis, do you consider even temporary move to 100% telework in 2021? So this could be the first question you can address to our panelists.
Good question. Do we go like the Silicon Valley? Ivo, would you get that one?
If the rates go up and there will be more strict measures, I would not exclude 98%, but I wouldn't go for 100. I would personally always prefer to have at least the option to come to the office, be it only for printing or some administrative stuff, but means working from home, but with the accessibility of the office. Yes, in crisis mode, in absolute crisis mode.
So you won't go for closing the office and announcing that?
If not publicly instructed, I think I would not go for that. Yeah.
Jonathan, would you do that? I mean, you're more of the Silicon Valley type, maybe.
Actually, it's true that there was an announcement by some of the big tech companies back in the 3-4 months ago that they would go 100% remote. I'm not 100% convinced that it's true. It's probably true for certain activities, but once more, maybe the R&D part, this human interaction doesn't fit with the fact that you can go 100% remotely. You need to maintain this interaction. So I agree with the Ivo, the 98%. If we have to, then yes, that's probably the balance we'll have to find. But the 100%, I'm not convinced that it actually is that efficient and that you can actually go for that. I'm skeptic.
It would not be our decision. It would be imposed on us, right? Yeah.
Might well be the case. Let's watch. Miriam, have you announced anything to your employee in terms of how do you project them in the next months, coming to the office? Is there any specific rules you've set?
It was yes, absolutely. First of all, I think it's good in a crisis to always look into the future and model scenarios. That's my job. So I was very transparent with everyone and said, excuse me, but I will be in stop and go mode because I'm dependent, not on my decision, but a government. Somebody else is deciding on me and what I'm supposed to do. So this is all accepted. As I said, there's a lot of solidarity, but clearly health comes first, the health of our employees, and we are extra careful. So yes, we are taking precautions. Yes, we are informing in advance. And yes, we are really counting on the solidarity of our employees. But no, I would never say telework until the end of the year, or telework, like Google said in Switzerland, telework for another 12 months. I think these very drastic scenarios are not helping. It's about staying connected, and I agree with Ivo and Jonathan. The whole deal is about how we can get digital also in the work environment and stay connected to the workplace.
Thank you, Miriam. Adrien, I'd like to hand it over again to you. Do we get any other question that we can ask our panelists?
Yes, maybe just one last question, so you still have a few minutes.
Okay.
So the pandemic has given an opportunity for adjusting and reinventing processes. toward a more digitized client and partner experience, so which was much needed anyway, but what about future client acquisition and retention, which rely a lot on trust and human interactions?
Can I go first here?
Go.
It was on my tongue already before when Jonathan was talking about the teleworking. So I believe we have two critical elements. One is exactly what is mentioned in the question around client acquisition. When I was talking about these new tools, for example, that's all fine with existing clients or projects which have been presented and vetted with the client before, but acquiring new clients, for example, is absolutely more difficult than before. I always quote my Italian. So Italy was in lockdown, the offices were closed, all was virtual, but what the clients did, they invited for lunch and ours went for lunch. So they met nevertheless because it was needed in terms of interaction. But it's not only about clients. I believe it's also about onboarding new employees. How do you recruit employees in a fully virtual environment, and how do you onboard them? How do you transmit the culture of an enterprise? Miriam, we were talking about the purpose that you can read on the web page, but how it's being lived and how managers, how the teams transmit it to the newcomers. I think it's some physical contact is absolutely necessary. And Jonathan, you mentioned the creativity element. I like also sweating together in a room. It's not just about bonding, it's also about commitment, engagement, and being aligned afterwards. I think it's a stronger commitment in those circumstances. So I agree with the question. That's a challenge in current environment.
Miriam, do you see the same type of challenges coming? How do you go to acquire new clients and on the board also?
Yeah, or even the retention part. I think the retention in a digital world is going to be extremely challenging because digitalization makes us replaceable. Actually, differentiation goes away, and usually it becomes equal if you go to X, Y, or Z, if you can do it anytime in the same manner, and digitally we are replaceable. So retention is a huge topic. And this is why I actually would argue that insurance is a special case compared to banking. We have a lot of transactions where there's a moment of truth. In the case of a claim, that is the most emotional moment. I give one example. If you run a travel insurance, in the moment of the crisis, you did repatriations. And these stories I heard about repatriating families, people who were stuck in countries, they're highly emotional. And that moment of truth is a moment of empathy. It's a moment of retention in the sense that is the reason why you would have an insurance. So yes, retention is going to be a huge topic. By the way, it has always been. So let's not take the crisis to make everything bigger as it is. But I think we need to be more selective on where we actually become very personal, empathetic, and where we have the high-touch interaction, the relevant interaction, and which is the interaction we can radically eliminate, simplify, and digitalize.
We go back to our mix. Jonathan, I saw you nodding when the question was raised. Can you share with us, please?
Maybe we've got to see it two ways, and you have people on the panel there who represent different activities within the insurance industry. So if you look at retail insurance, I believe that digital onboarding could apply, especially for low risk or no risk, or not very complex situations. And we have done that with a partner for the banking and trading, and actually during the crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, they had a 500% growth thanks to a digital onboarding solution. So I think that people, and it's going back once more to customer experience here, people are expecting that from their counterpart, from the insurance company. it wouldn't apply the same way with life insurance or with B2B reassurance. In fact, we rather talk of assisted onboarding, where in fact the digital tools are there to help either the relationship manager to optimize the customer experience and then, raise the customer satisfaction here, but also have a higher conversion rate. And once more, it gives you better quality in terms of data and documents that you collect. So it makes you as a firm more efficient. Yeah, indeed. So it's a mix between the customer experience and the efficiency that we've addressed in the different questions. And here, once more, the examples that we have are clearly in favor of finding the right balance between human interaction and using digital as tools to give a better experience to both the end customers and the people, the employees, having to deal with the data or the customer at the end of the day.
Many thanks, Jonathan. I'd like to thank a lot my panelists for sharing so openly their views, their experience. Thanks to you as well, dear audience, for having participated to the polls, raising your questions. Just maybe quickly, few words just to conclude. I think I heard a lot about, okay, we do invest in digital, in technology. This is critical not to go back where we were before, but really it's the time to take the moment of a competitive advantage and remain relevant to our customer, but also remain relevant to our people. I'm hearing also a sense of let's balance those powers, autonomy versus also leadership. They need to go together. I'm going to hand it over now to Sarah and Adrien. Many thanks for spending that time with us. And enjoy the rest of your day with the ACA Insurance 2020 days. Thank you.
Un grand merci à vous quatre. Merci également à la technique et à notre public d'avoir posé toutes vos questions sur Slido et ainsi échangé avec nos panélistes. Et maintenant, Sarah, quelle est la suite ?
Passons maintenant à la troisième session des ACA Insurance Innovation Awards. Aujourd'hui, ce sera Grégoire Matonnet de Stampify et Pablo Villaluenga de Triolab qui affrontent notre jury composé de Pierre-Michael de Verzegger, David Donias et Stéphanie Smets, et surtout vous derrière votre écran.
Votez pour nos deux startups du jour, Stampify et Triolab, et évaluez de 1 à 10 quelle est la contribution de cette startup pour le secteur de l'assurance, ainsi que votre appréciation générale du pitch. Vous aurez 2 minutes par question. Le nom du vainqueur vous sera dévoilé mardi prochain, le 24 novembre, lors de notre grande session académique. Place maintenant à Grégoire Matonnet Stampify et Pablo Villaluenga Triolab pour cette troisième et dernière session des ACA Insurance Innovation Awards.
Good morning. Morning. Can I ask you to introduce yourself and also to give us the name of the company that you are representing?
Of course. I am Matonnet Grégoire and I am CTO at Stampify.
Thank you. So you have now 3 minutes to pitch your solution, and after that we will have the opportunity to ask you a couple of questions. The floor is yours.
So Stampify in a nutshell. We are your go-to platform when it comes to having a universal, because we already are working with B2B and B2G partners, trusted, as we are working with several EIDAS qualified companies, and we are in the process of getting qualified ourselves. Inkless, as we always strive to reduce paper workflows and have everything digital. Governance solution. So our mission is mostly to digitize processes, board meetings, board packs, but also when it comes to having your shareholder registry being online. Now, what can we offer to the insurance professionals that you represent? We are in the process of launching our QERDS solution, which is Qualified Electronic Registered Delivery System. It means that you will be able to send any type of document the same way as you would send it via registered post, but in a digital manner, which means that you have a guarantee of who the recipient is, that you have sent him or a company some document, and when the receiving party acknowledged that it has received it. We are working for that with EIDAS qualified providers and advanced ourselves, and we will always have a fallback with post here in Luxembourg. As you can see, we have the ambition to become the first QRDS certified provider here in Luxembourg with always this physical fallback. So let's do a quick case study for you guys. Let's imagine that you need to terminate the contract of one of your insurer. The old way that you would do it would be by sending the offending or terminated party a registered post, which is cumbersome because you have no guarantee on the actual content that you have been transmitting, just that you have been transmitting some content. The process is slow, and the receiving party will usually receive it after a couple of days, and the fees are relatively high. With our solution, you have a guarantee on what you have been transmitting. The delivery is instantaneous, and already known means here can be used for signing, like LuxTrust, and you have a better granularity on the fees, as you can use either the advanced or the qualified signature, and you can use a fallback on the physical delivery if it is still needed. Now we can go to the questions, actually.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Maybe I will start at the first question. So you explained us that your solution could potentially replace registered mail in the future.
Exactly.
Does it go both ways, meaning that companies now send registered mail to their clients, but also you have all the distribution partners sending big packs of documents via registered mail to the company?
Yeah.
Can it handle both?
Yeah, you can register, of course, who has the signatory power in a company and address registered mail to one company. We'll redirect it to the people having the signatory powers, and you can actually target a company.
Maybe just a follow-up on this question. So if the company, the insurance company, wants to exchange such communication with their client, do their clients also need to implement your solution in order to receive such?
That's a good question. So to receive it in a qualified way, so signing with LuxTrust, you don't need anything, because the receiving party will sign in a qualified way, which is a self-contained signature, digital signature. To sign in an advanced way, you need to have some knowledge of who your customer is beforehand, which is actually usually already done these days. So insurance companies have enough KYC on their customer so that we are able to provide these customers with an advanced identity, digital identity. And then the process of signing is just going to a web portal to acknowledge the receipt.
This is definitely a topic on the agenda. What differentiates your solution from the competition?
Well, we love to say that we are here the first in Luxembourg to provide it already. And we want to always have this physical fallback with post, which means that if your recipient does not like to receive digital documents, we can still make sure that he or she will receive it via regular registered mail. In this case, we have an additional benefit still compared to the registered mail, which is that we have the proof of the content being sent, which you do not have when you just go to the post office and you post something.
Have you already implemented this solution with clients here in Luxembourg, or it is in the process?
So it's in the testing phase internally for now. We don't have, we haven't launched it yet commercially.
How do you handle data security?
So we'll be audited for that as for the other transmissions, as we plan to be a qualified provider of this service at the EIDAS framework, so we will need to be audited. Now, to make it simple, we'll have a process which guarantees that the data that you send us is destroyed after some time and only accessible is actually by the recipient after acknowledging of all the proofs. This will be audited, and we will make sure that it is destroyed after some time of non-use according to policies that the sender chooses. Actually, for now, we still plan on having all the solution based in a public cloud, but to make it compliant with here the regulation in Luxembourg for being resilient to cloud changes and such regulations that insurance companies have to make sure their providers comply with.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can I ask you to present yourself and to give us the name of the company that you're representing?
Okay. My name is Pablo Villaluenga, and I am the Managing Director of Triolabs Europe.
Thank you. So you have now 3 minutes to pitch your solution, and after that we will ask you questions. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. About Triolabs, we develop AI solutions to give to our clients our competitive advantage. We create a solution in the field such machine learning, natural language processing, and forecasting models and predictive analytics. We've around for 10 years working more in the American market, and this year we opened our European hub here in Luxembourg. And now I want to talk about one AI journey that we did with our client, Allianz Global Investor. The first step of this journey was find the right partner. So we were invited to go to Hong Kong and participate in a hackathon with another 9 global companies. And we had to resolve a risk management problem, and we won it, so we start to work with Allianz. This year, we developed a tool to automate and improve their risk management procedures. The idea was using NLP to process and summarize and classify a lot of information and alert that they receive in different sources, like Bloomberg, like Titan. So using our tools, we change 100 or more emails daily that are very difficult to work with these unstructured emails, and we change for only one report. So the team can put all the focus in the real high-value activities and don't lose time in repetitive tasks. And this was the most value apport of our tool. And we think this is the main value that we can provide, develop AI solution for the insurance sector, that they have a huge opportunity. Then we want to be the partners of the companies to go through this journey. And this is our idea. We think that this technology is here to stay. So our advice is to start. Small, but start. Because this is only the beginning, and we are here to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. So you explained us that you have already quite some experience in the US. So based on that experience, what are the major advantages of using your solution for a client?
Sorry, the major advantage?
Of using your solution.
Is when working with us, you don't start from scratch. So we have a lot of experience, not only in the finance sector, not only in the insurance sector, in another sectors, that the algorithms in some cases are very similar. The problem to solve is very similar. So it's important to don't invent the wheel. You need to reuse. And this is, I think, the most valuable thing that is work with us, that is to reuse all the experience that we have. So, and this is the most valuable thing that was working in the US market, and now we are here.
Okay. To what extent do you think you can help to improve the operational efficiency with your solution on this specific topic?
In this case, for example,
yes.
If you see how they receive all these alerts, was in only one email box, you have 100 and 150 alerts from Bloomberg, from Titan. So using NLP, we can select, process, take out the duplicate alert, taking in account which is the alert in relation with their asset that they're invest with their sometimes the client that they need to know more about. So we save a lot of time in repetitive tasks. Okay, sometimes we don't need to see or to think that we need to change all the process. It's to give tools to our team that they can put focus in the real high-value activities, and they will improve their efficiency.
Let's imagine that tomorrow a Luxembourg insurance company is very interested by your solution. And what would be the first step of their journey with you? You mentioned the comparison to make a journey and to just start. We need to start.
Exactly. In machine learning on AI project, the oil is the data. So we help them to analyze the data that they have, and how, if the data is not too good, how they can have a better quality of data. And then we start with a baby step. We don't like to start a huge project. It's baby step to show to the stakeholders the value that this type of technology can give to the business. And this is the way that we all the times we work. Is we need to see that we really have a machine learning project and not spend time and money to start to working in a big project that maybe the data is very bad and you waste money and then you say machine learning doesn't work. So this is how we work.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. Thank you for your time and for the presentation.
Thank you very much for your.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dernier format de notre matinée tous ensemble, vous avez maintenant la parole. Nous vous donnons l'opportunité de poser toutes vos questions pertinentes et impertinentes à Mark Lauer, président de l'ACA et CEO du groupe Foyer.
Et c'est Mark Engen, CEO de l'ACA, qui est votre voix et qui pose à notre invité toutes vos questions. Mark Lauer est à vous pour 15 minutes.
Bonjour à tout le monde, aux participants, aux nombreux participants de l'ACA Insurance Day, la 3e édition, aujourd'hui 19 novembre. Merci d'avoir connecté et surtout bienvenue à Marc et merci d'avoir accepté de participer à ce format In Discussion With. Merci aussi aux questions qui nous sont parvenues via Slido et sans attendre, donc on va poser les questions à Mark Lauer, donc le président de l'ACA, mais également le CEO du groupe Foyer à Luxembourg. Et une des questions, Marc, qui nous est parvenue est celle, quels sont les effets de la crise Covid sur les assureurs luxembourgeois?
Bon, je crois qu'il y en a un certain nombre, évidemment. D'abord, à court terme, et cela a été dit ce matin, on a réussi quand même tous à passer très rapidement d'un travail on-spot dans nos locaux traditionnels vers un travail pratiquement tout à fait organisé en télétravail. Ça, c'est, je crois, une première prouesse pour le secteur. Je crois que dans le confinement, la plupart des assureurs ont pratiquement eu tout leur effectif, sauf quelques-uns, au télétravail. Le deuxième impact qui était quand même très important aussi, c'était les impacts financiers. Tu te souviens, au mois de mars, avril, les bourses étaient quand même un peu sous le choc. Et comme les assureurs sont tous des investisseurs très importants, des investisseurs institutionnels, bon, on a ressenti des impacts relativement importants sur nos bilans et sur nos pertes et profits. Depuis lors, ça s'est amélioré un tout petit peu. Mais il y a quand même des séquelles qui restent. Et une de ces séquelles, c'est que les taux, qui étaient déjà très bas, continuent encore à se maintenir à des niveaux historiquement bas, autour de zéro, voire même négatifs. Et avec des taux zéro, voire même négatifs des assureurs, surtout les assureurs vie, qui sont des organisateurs de la prévoyance, se retrouvent dans des situations pour que certains de leurs produits ne sont plus attractifs pour les clients et plus rentables pour les assureurs en tant que tels. Par ailleurs, ça a été dit déjà dans le panel, lors du confinement, les expectatives des consommateurs ont aussi changé. Ils s'attendent à des services plus digitaux, pas exclusivement digitaux, mais plus digitaux. Et donc, les assureurs ont aussi dû se préparer, accélérer les mouvements que certains avaient déjà entrepris avant pour répondre mieux aux attentes des clients. Et le dernier point, c'est que la manière dont les sinistres se produisent a aussi changé. Je prends un exemple, par exemple, de l'assurance santé, où pendant le confinement, toute une série de traitements que les patients auraient dû faire ne se sont pas faits et donc ont été reportés. Et maintenant, lorsqu'on est à nouveau dans une phase 3, phase 4 au niveau de nos hôpitaux, à nouveau, il y a un certain nombre de traitements qui ont été reportés.
Ok, Marc. Donc si je conclue, donc effectivement, il n'y a pas eu un choc en mars, mais il y en a eu au moins 4 qui ont dû tous être gérés en même moment.
Si on dit choc, certains, certainement, c'est négatif, des impacts négatifs. D'autres, comme la mise au télétravail, l'accélération de la mise au télétravail, l'accélération de la digitalisation, ce sont des effets que je ne connoterais pas nécessairement comme négatifs.
Ok, merci. Et donc, ça rejoint un peu une question, et peut-être on va la prendre directement. Votre avis sur le télétravail en général? Ici, nous entendons souvent que les collaborateurs sont moins productifs en télétravail. Je pense que ça a été discuté aussi précédemment. Quel est votre avis personnel, Marc?
Si je reviens à ce que Myriam a dit, nous, les baby boomers, et je me compte parmi eux, avaient bien sûr des réflexes plus traditionnels. D'abord, je dois dire que tout s'est passé très très bien pour passer dans le télétravail dans une situation de crise. Et dans cette situation de crise, le télétravail le plus large possible était la meilleure solution qu'on pouvait trouver. Je continue à croire que le télétravail impactera notre manière de travailler dans le futur et que nous travaillerons demain différemment de la manière dont nous avons travaillé aujourd'hui. Je ne crois pas non plus, quand même, que le télétravail, à 100%, c'est la solution à tout. Il y a beaucoup de créativité, beaucoup d'interactions qui résultent du fait que les gens se parlent, se rencontrent, s'échangent, se contredisent, etc., etc. Toutes ces interactions manqueront et entraîneront qu'il y a un manque de créativité dans les entreprises, créativité qui est quand même très important pour adapter nos business models régulièrement à toutes les contraintes, que ce soit les contraintes de la crise sanitaire, mais aussi les contraintes ou les opportunités de la digitalisation.
Oui, donc aussi un choc, si je peux me permettre, sur la créativité, et donc un autre sujet à gérer dans les mois qui vont suivre.
Si tu permets juste, oui. Je ne crois pas qu'on peut dire télétravail, c'est moins de productivité. Je crois que là, les réponses doivent aussi être plus nuancées. Il y a certaines personnes qui ont besoin de beaucoup d'interactions et qui ne peuvent pas travailler de la même manière aussi productive que dans le passé. Il y a d'autres fonctions qui peuvent être aussi productives et parfois sont même plus productives dans un environnement de télétravail.
Ok, merci. Alors, une autre question, Marc, est celle par rapport à ton engagement à l'ACA, c'est-à-dire tu es devenu le président de l'ACA en mai dernier. Je me rappelle, c'était juste après le confinement. Quelles sont les actions prioritaires pour l'ACA dans ce contexte bien spécifique et que nous vivons aujourd'hui et sur les activités de l'ACA?
Je crois que, bien sûr, à court terme, il y a la gestion de la crise. Il y avait à trouver un certain nombre de solutions communes ou de convergence au niveau du télétravail. Comment on peut organiser ça au mieux aussi face à un cadre réglementaire qui est ce qu'il est, avec un secret professionnel très strict qui ne prévoit pas le transfert de données au-delà des frontières, etc., etc. Ça, c'était un premier point. Mais d'une manière à plus long terme, je crois que l'ACA a 3 défis devant elle. Le premier, c'est l'intégration de ces nouveaux membres, parce que tu te souviens, 2018 et 2019, on a quand même reçu beaucoup de nouveaux membres. Ces membres résultent plutôt du fait que le Royaume-Uni a voulu sortir de l'Union européenne. On les appelle donc parfois des Brexiters, mais il faut leur montrer quelle est la plus-value que l'ACA peut leur donner, quelle est l'interaction qu'ils peuvent avoir avec les autres participants du marché. Et donc ça, c'est un premier défi. Un deuxième défi, et je crois que le webinaire ou la séance précédente des ACA Insurance Days on a traité, c'est tout ce qui tourne autour de l'ESG. Ça devient un sujet d'une très grande actualité et à côté des attentes de nos clients, il y a aussi toute une réglementation qui vient sur nous et l'ACA doit se positionner sur ce sujet qui est un sujet aussi d'urgence, d'une autre crise, mais aussi un sujet sur lequel nos clients nous attendent. Et le troisième, ça c'est le rôle plus traditionnel de toute organisation professionnelle, c'est de travailler avec les régulateurs et les superviseurs pour que la réglementation de demain sera une réglementation qui certes garantit, et c'est très important, la stabilité du secteur, qui certes garantit, et c'est très important, garantit aussi la protection des consommateurs, mais doit aussi, et ça c'est aussi très important, maintenir un certain espace pour de l'entrepreneurship et pour le développement de l'assurance à Luxembourg et à partir de Luxembourg. Et là, c'est un équilibre que nous devons toujours essayer de défendre.
OK. Donc, une présidence qui s'annonce bien agitée également et plein d'activités.
Je crois que ni toi ni moi, on va s'ennuyer.
Non, on ne va pas s'ennuyer et c'est d'autant mieux.
Voilà.
Une autre question me parvient, Marc. Quel message positif souhaitez-vous adresser au secteur de l'assurance luxembourgeois dans le contexte actuel?
Je crois que je dirais d'abord un grand bravo. Un grand bravo parce qu'on a quand même montré que le secteur peut être agile, qu'il peut être réactif. Alors que on a parlé aujourd'hui beaucoup de start-up. Il y a encore quelques années, les start-up qualifiaient le monde de l'assurance comme légataire, poussiéreux, etc., incapables de se réinventer. Et je crois que tant dans son organisation interne que dans sa relation client, le secteur de l'assurance européen et aussi le secteur luxembourgeois est en train de se réinventer et a montré beaucoup d'agilité. Par ailleurs, je crois que la plupart de nos acteurs ont montré une grande résilience face à la crise. Et je crois que ça a aussi le mérite d'être souligné.
OK. Merci Marc pour ces messages positifs. La régie ne me donne pas d'autres questions aujourd'hui. Donc, il me reste à te remercier beaucoup pour l'input et les éclaircissements en tant que président de l'ACA, mais également donc CEO d'un grand groupe d'assurance luxembourgeois. Et je souhaite à tous les participants de l'ACA Insurance Day une bonne suite du programme et merci de votre attention. Merci.
Merci Marc, merci beaucoup.
Merci à vous deux, Marc et Marc. Nous arrivons déjà à la fin, Sarah. Mais peut-être avant de terminer, un dernier nuage de mots que nous pouvons proposer à nos internautes qui nous suivent. Alors, vous avez maintenant plus que l'habitude, sur la droite de votre écran, à vous de répondre en un seul mot. Qu'avez-vous préféré dans la session des ACA Insurance Day d'aujourd'hui?
Nous vous donnons rendez-vous mardi prochain, c'est à 17h cette fois, pour la séance académique. Elle va réunir des invités prestigieux, le ministre des Finances, un keynote speaker, notre président. Vous connaîtrez le gagnant des ACA Insurance Innovation Awards et vous aurez plein de belles surprises. Le tout sera animé par Mark Engen, CEO de l'ACA, et Sandrine Chabrerie, directrice des affaires européennes.
Pour aujourd'hui, continuez notre matinée avec les booths. Vous avez également jusqu'à ce soir pour organiser les meetings en one-to-one. Alors allez-y, profitez-en, rencontrez-vous car ce soir, c'est terminé.
Oui, et on va donc demander à la régie de nous montrer le nuage de mots pour voir ce que vous avez préféré, le digital. Je pense que c'est pour ça que vous étiez nombreux à vous être inscrits à cette session en particulier. L'empathie, la vision, l'humanité,
le panel,
le
sujet, la fluidité,
le débat sur le télétravail.
Myriam,
oui,
avec plusieurs orthographes.
Oui. Le pragmatisme, oui, en cette période, c'est assez important.
Je pense qu'il y en a de nombreux.
Il y a nos sponsors, tous. Merci beaucoup de vos réponses. Alors, merci de vos retours qui ont été nombreux. Vous êtes plus de 1000 inscrits sur cet événement. On vous retrouve mardi, dans un autre lieu, dans une autre ambiance, mais avec la même volonté de rassembler la communauté de l'assurance à Luxembourg. N'hésitez pas à partager encore les invitations, car les inscriptions sont encore ouvertes.
Merci à tous. Merci de nous avoir suivis pendant ces 3 premières journées des ACA Insurance Day 2020. Il ne nous reste plus qu'à vous souhaiter une très belle journée. Remercie encore la technique et tous nos intervenants. Et à mardi prochain. Au revoir, Sarah.
À mardi prochain. Au revoir, Adrien.